Ever pondered the impact of bird flu on humans? Today we delve deep into this intriguing topic. Bird flu, also known as avian influenza, is an infectious disease that's not just the bane of our feathered friends but can also pose a threat to us humans. But before we explore that, let's understand what bird flu really is. At its core, bird flu is caused by influenza A viruses. These microscopic invaders are prevalent among both wild birds and domestic poultry, making waterfowl and chickens their primary hosts. However, this doesn't mean other birds are immune. The virus, being quite the survivalist, can persist on various surfaces and spread from one farm to another. This is especially true in cold temperatures where the virus can endure for extended periods. Now you might be wondering, how did bird flu originate? Well, the answer lies in the natural habitat of wild birds. These creatures are the original carriers of the virus but rarely show signs of the disease. However, when domestic birds come into contact with the droppings, saliva, or nasal secretions of infected birds, they can contract the virus. Once in the domestic bird population, the virus can mutate into a highly pathogenic form, causing severe disease and death among poultry. But here's the catch. While bird flu primarily affects birds, humans aren't entirely off the hook. Although rare, humans can contract the disease through close contact with infected birds or by touching contaminated surfaces. This means that poultry workers, veterinarians, and anyone else in close contact with birds are at a higher risk. Despite the potential danger, it's essential to remember that bird flu remains primarily an animal disease. It does not frequently cross the species barrier to infect humans, but when it does, the results can range from mild symptoms like conjunctivitis to severe respiratory issues. While bird flu primarily affects birds, humans can contract the disease under specific conditions. As we dive deeper into the impact of bird flu on humans in the following segments, remember that understanding is the first step towards prevention. Human infection is rare but possible. Let's explore how this happens. Bird flu, also known as avian influenza, is not a frequent visitor to the human body. However, on the rare occasion it does pay a visit, it's usually due to close contact with infected birds or surfaces that these birds have contaminated. Now, when we say close contact, we mean handling live or dead birds that are infected, or even just touching surfaces that have been contaminated by their droppings. It's not an everyday scenario for most of us, but for those working in poultry farms or live animal markets, this is a risk they might encounter. Now let's talk about what happens when a person is infected. Just like our feathered friends, humans can experience a range of symptoms. Some may experience mild symptoms such as conjunctivitis, which is an inflammation of the eye, often causing redness and irritation. Others might just feel like they've caught a common cold, with symptoms like fever, cough, sore throat, and muscle aches. But don't let this fool you. Bird flu can also cause severe respiratory diseases like pneumonia, and in extreme cases it can be fatal. It's also important to note that the symptoms can depend on which strain of the bird flu virus one is infected with. Some strains might only cause mild symptoms, while others can lead to severe illness. And while these severe cases are uncommon, they do occur, making bird flu a serious concern for public health officials worldwide. What's reassuring, however, is that the bird flu virus does not easily jump from birds to humans, and even when it does, it's even less likely to spread from person to person. This is why most cases of bird flu infections in people have been associated with certain types of exposure to infected poultry or surfaces contaminated with avian influenza viruses. While rare, the impact of bird flu on humans can be severe. So it's crucial to stay informed and take precautions when necessary, especially if you're in close contact with birds. Remember, knowledge is the best defense against any disease. So, how do we treat bird flu? And more importantly, how can we prevent it? When it comes to treating bird flu or avian influenza, the primary approach is supportive care. This means managing the symptoms and helping the body recover. For instance, if a patient has a fever, they might be given medication to reduce it. If they're experiencing severe respiratory symptoms, they might require oxygen or even mechanical ventilation. But, of course, treating the symptoms is only part of the solution. Antiviral medications are also used to fight the virus itself. These drugs can reduce the severity of the illness and shorten the duration. However, they're most effective when taken within the first 48 hours of symptoms appearing. There are also vaccines available for bird flu. However, it's important to note that these vaccines need to be matched with the specific strain of the virus causing the outbreak. This makes mass vaccination a complex and challenging process, Now let's talk prevention. The best way to prevent bird flu is to avoid exposure to the virus. This means steering clear of sick or dead birds and avoiding direct contact with their droppings. If you must handle birds, whether they're wild or domestic, it's crucial to follow safety precautions. Use protective equipment such as gloves and masks, and make sure to wash your hands thoroughly afterwards. In some places, vaccination of birds is practiced to prevent the spread of the virus. However, this isn't universally adopted due to concerns about cost and effectiveness. It's also important to remember that the virus can survive on surfaces, especially in cold temperatures. So regular disinfection of farms and other areas where birds are kept is essential. While bird flu is rare in humans, it's still a serious disease that can cause severe illness. But with the right treatment and prevention measures, we can effectively manage the risk and minimize the impact on human health. While treatment is available, prevention remains our best defense against bird flu. You might be wondering, am I at risk? Let us address this pressing concern. When it comes to bird flu, the general public can breathe a sigh of relief. The risk is, in fact, quite low. This is primarily because there's currently no concrete evidence of sustained human-to-human transmission. What this means is that, while it is possible for someone to contract the virus from close contact with infected birds or contaminated surfaces, it is not typical for the virus to then spread from that person to another. Now you may also be curious about your furry friends at home. The good news is, dogs and cats also have a low risk of infection. While there have been isolated incidents of these pets contracting bird flu, it is not a common occurrence. So, while it's wise to keep an eye on your pet's health and behavior, there's no need for undue worry. However, it's important to note that low risk does not mean no risk. Even though the likelihood of contracting bird flu is low, it's still crucial to exercise caution, especially if you're in close contact with birds. This could include backyard chicken owners, bird watchers, or those who work in poultry farms. The risk can also vary depending on location. Some regions may have a higher prevalence of the virus due to factors like climate or migratory bird patterns. In some countries, vaccination of birds is practiced as a preventive measure, but this is not universally adopted due to cost and effectiveness concerns. In short, while the risk to the general public is low, it's always better to be safe than sorry. Maintaining good hygiene, avoiding close contact with sick or dead birds, and following safety precautions when handling animals or animal products can go a long way in keeping you and your loved ones safe. The risk to the general public is low, but caution is always advisable. What about our food? Can we still enjoy our favorite poultry dishes and eggs? Now that's a question that's likely been on your mind. The good news? Absolutely, yes. Bird flu does not affect the safety of pasteurized dairy products, properly cooked poultry, or eggs. But like all things, the key is in the approach. Let's talk about poultry first. Cooking your chicken to the right temperature is crucial. That magic number is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, the heat effectively kills the bird flu virus, making your chicken safe to eat. Now, while handling raw poultry, it's essential to wash your hands thoroughly before and after. Also, remember to clean any utensils or surfaces that came into contact with the raw meat to prevent cross-contamination. Now, let's crack into the subject of eggs. Similar to poultry, eggs should be cooked until the yolks and whites are firm. That means saying goodbye to your runny eggs Benedict for a while. And, as with poultry, always make sure to clean any surfaces or utensils that came into contact with raw eggs. But what if you're a backyard chicken owner? Extra precautions are necessary to protect your flock from potential exposure. Keep your coop clean and provide fresh water and food daily. Limit contact with wild birds and other domestic birds that might carry the virus, and be sure to monitor your birds for any signs of illness. If you notice anything unusual, contact your local veterinarian or agricultural extension office. So, there you have it. While bird flu is a concern, it doesn't mean you have to give up your favorite poultry dishes or your morning omelet. It's all about taking the right precautions and being mindful about food safety. With proper handling and cooking, we can safely enjoy our poultry and eggs.